Then came August 11th, 2026. Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez married in a private civil ceremony in Cascais, Portugal. After almost a decade together, they were officially husband and wife. And there was something almost poetic about the way it happened. Ronaldo has spent his entire adult life surrounded by crowds, thousands of fans, millions of viewers, championship finals, World Cups, Champions League nights, the whole world watching. But this moment was private. No massive football stadium, no roaring crowd, no trophy ceremony. Just a personal milestone for two people who had spent years building a family together. And maybe that's the most fitting ending to their love story. Because Ronaldo's public life has always belonged to the world, but his family life belongs to him. So what do we actually learn from Ronaldo's story? Look at the contrast. The world sees Cristiano Ronaldo, the footballer, the goals, the trophies, the records, the Ballon d'Ors, the wealth, the cars, the mansions, the millions of followers. But behind that image is a man who once left Madeira as a young boy chasing a dream. A boy who had to sacrifice. A young footballer who had to accept criticism. A superstar who had to deal with enormous pressure. And eventually, a father. A partner. A man who experienced devastating loss. His greatest achievements will always be discussed in football terms. But there are achievements that don't appear on a football statistics page. Building a family. Being there for your children. Finding someone who stays beside you through difficult years. And continuing after heartbreak. That's a different kind of success. Cristiano Ronaldo spent his entire life chasing greatness. He chased goals, he chased trophies, he chased records, he chased the impossible. And perhaps that's why his love story is so interesting. Because football gave Ronaldo something the world could measure. Goals, trophies, awards, records. But love gave him something statistics could never measure. A family, a home, a person waiting for him beyond the stadium. His journey began with a boy from Madeira who wanted to become a footballer. That boy became a Manchester United star, then a Real Madrid legend, then a global icon. And while his career was reaching heights almost nobody could imagine, he met Georgina. Together, they built a family. They experienced happiness. They experienced fame. They experienced unimaginable loss. They kept moving forward. They became engaged. And finally, in 2026, they became husband and wife. Maybe that's the real lesson in Cristiano Ronaldo's story. You can spend your entire life trying to become the greatest in the world, but at the end of the day, the people beside you when the world goes quiet may matter more than everything you won in front of the world. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Cristiano Ronaldo's greatest achievement is his football career, or the family he built away from the football pitch? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more emotional stories about the real lives behind the world's biggest stars, subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the story behind the legend is more powerful than the legend itself. The darkest chapter. This is where the story changes. In 2022, Ronaldo and Georgina announced that they were expecting twins. For a family already filled with children, it was supposed to be a moment of incredible happiness, a new chapter, 2 new lives. But then, tragedy struck. Their baby boy died during childbirth. Their daughter survived. The family had just experienced one of the most painful moments imaginable, and suddenly, everything else became smaller. The football, the trophies, the money, the fame. None of it could change what had happened. Ronaldo publicly announced the loss. Georgina also shared aspects of her grief, and the world watched. But here's something important about grief. There is no final whistle. There is no trophy ceremony at the end. There is no training session that fixes it. You simply wake up the next morning and have to continue. Ronaldo still had football. Georgina still had work. Their children still needed their parents. Life continued, even when part of them was hurting. And perhaps this was the greatest test their relationship had faced. Not fame, not criticism, not distance, not football. Loss. After tragedy, families don't simply return to normal. They create a new normal. Ronaldo continued playing. Georgina continued working. Their children continued growing, and the family continued making memories. But the loss remained part of their story. At the same time, Ronaldo's career was entering another major chapter. He eventually moved to Saudi Arabia to play for Al Nassr, another country, another culture, another enormous change. And Georgina and the children were part of that journey. Their lives continued moving forward. Georgina's public career continued growing. Her Netflix series brought audiences closer to her world. People saw the luxury, the fashion, the travel, the family. But they also saw vulnerability. Because the story was no longer simply Cristiano Ronaldo's girlfriend. Georgina had become a public figure in her own right, and together they had become a family whose life fascinated millions. But there was still one question that kept appearing. When will they get married? For years, fans asked the same thing. When will Cristiano Ronaldo marry Georgina Rodríguez? They had been together since 2016. They had children. They had built a life. They had survived one of life's greatest tragedies. But there was still no wedding. People speculated. The media speculated. Fans waited. Then, in August 2025, Georgina announced their engagement. After years of questions, the answer finally arrived. They were getting married. And suddenly, the story that began almost a decade earlier had entered another chapter. But after everything they had experienced, the wedding represented more than a celebrity event. It represented time, commitment, family, and survival. They had already lived through the hardest chapter together. Now they were preparing to make another promise. The meeting that changed everything. In Madrid, Georgina Rodríguez was living a very different life. She had ambitions of her own. She was working and building her future. Then came the encounter that changed everything. Georgina has publicly described meeting Ronaldo while working at a Gucci store in Madrid. Ronaldo was already one of the world's most famous footballers. But Georgina's life wasn't built around football fame. She wasn't yet the celebrity everyone knows today. And perhaps that's what made their story interesting. Their relationship developed. They started spending time together. Then they began appearing together publicly. At first, the world watched with curiosity. Who was Georgina? Was this another short-lived celebrity relationship? Or had Ronaldo finally found someone who could share his extraordinary life? The answer wouldn't come overnight. Because relationships aren't proven by photographs. They're proven by time. And time was exactly what Ronaldo and Georgina were about to give their relationship. From couple to family. Their relationship became more serious, and eventually their lives became connected not only by romance, but by family. In 2017, Georgina gave birth to their daughter, Ilana Martina. Ronaldo was already a father, and together they became part of a growing family. This changed everything, because dating is one thing, building a family is another. Suddenly there were children, responsibilities, travel, football, Georgina's own ambitions, and millions of people watching. Ronaldo's career continued moving at incredible speed. Real Madrid, Juventus, Manchester United again, Portugal, and eventually Al Nassr. Meanwhile, Georgina built her own public career. She became a fashion personality, an influencer, a businesswoman, and eventually the star of her own reality series. The woman who had first become known publicly as Ronaldo's partner was developing an identity of her own. But behind the glamorous photographs was a family, children, birthdays, travel, ordinary family moments inside an extraordinary lifestyle. And for a while, everything seemed to be going in the right direction. Until 2022.
In 2003, a young Cristiano Ronaldo played a preseason match against Manchester United, and he impressed the English club enormously. Manchester United signed him. Suddenly, the teenager from Madeira was playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. But there was a problem. England was different. The Premier League was physical, fast, aggressive, and Ronaldo was still developing. He had talent, but talent doesn't automatically make you a superstar. He had to learn how to handle pressure. He had to become stronger. He had to become more efficient. And he had to deal with criticism. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, Ronaldo developed rapidly. The teenager who had arrived as a gifted winger slowly transformed. His body changed, his confidence changed, his decision-making changed, and his ambition became enormous. Then came the goals, then came the trophies, then came the Ballon d'Or. The boy from Madeira was no longer simply a promising footballer. He was becoming a superstar. But his biggest transformation was still ahead. In 2009, Ronaldo made one of the biggest moves in football history, Real Madrid. The Spanish giants paid a world record transfer fee at the time, and suddenly Ronaldo was living in Madrid, a new country, a new club, a new level of pressure, and perhaps most importantly, a new level of fame. At Real Madrid, Ronaldo didn't simply score goals, he produced them at a breathtaking rate. Season after season, competition after competition, he broke records, he won trophies, he won Champions League titles, he collected individual awards. He became one of the central figures of football's greatest modern rivalry, Cristiano Ronaldo versus Lionel Messi. Two players, two styles, two extraordinary careers, and millions of people arguing over one question: who is the greatest? Ronaldo responded the way he always did. On the pitch, he kept scoring, he kept training, he kept improving. His lifestyle became famous, his physical condition became famous, his discipline became famous, his confidence became famous, and his wealth grew with his success. But there was a hidden cost. The more successful Ronaldo became, the less private his life became. Every relationship could become a headline, every photograph could become international news, every rumor could spread around the world. And that brings us to 2016, because while Ronaldo was dominating football, a completely different chapter of his life was about to begin.
There are millions of footballers in the world, but only a few become legends, and almost nobody becomes a global phenomenon. Cristiano Ronaldo did. He became the player children wanted to imitate, the name printed on millions of shirts, the man whose goals filled stadiums, the superstar who turned discipline into an obsession and failure into motivation. But before the trophies, before the Ballon d'Ors, before Real Madrid, before the millions of dollars, there was just a boy from Madeira. A boy who wanted to play football so badly that his dream would eventually take him away from his family while he was still incredibly young. He would experience loneliness, pressure, criticism, failure, and moments when people questioned whether he could really become the player he imagined. But he kept going. And eventually, that boy became Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the most famous athletes on the planet. He had almost everything the world could offer: money, fame, trophies, cars, mansions, millions of fans. But there was something success couldn't guarantee: a person who would stay when the cameras disappeared. Then, in 2016, Ronaldo met Georgina Rodríguez. At the time, Georgina wasn't a global celebrity. She wasn't surrounded by millions of followers. She was living her own life in Madrid, and their first meeting seemed like an ordinary moment. But that ordinary moment would eventually become the beginning of one of football's most famous modern love stories. A relationship that would bring children, a family, an engagement, and eventually marriage. But there was something neither of them could have predicted. their love would eventually face a tragedy that no amount of money, fame, or success could protect them from. So how did Ronaldo go from a struggling boy in Madeira to a football legend? How did he meet Georgina? Why did their relationship become so important to him? And after facing one of the darkest moments of their lives, how did they keep going? This is the story of Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez.